Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wheels of Technology. This is a follow-up on our previous video. Last time we installed MSMQ and sent a message. Today we're going to do a trigger on the messaging queue and peek at the message. This is our private queue that we created on our previous video. Right now we don't have any messages here. So what I'll do is just run through I'll send a whole bunch of messages, 10 messages at a time. Refresh this. It should have gone through our journal since I have that checked after a queue is read and peaked. It automatically moves it to the journal. We have 10 messages here. Our body, we have testing, and we can concatenated numbers on those as we loop through 10 messages that we sent. All you can do is we have a trigger here that I set up your properties. We did check the retrieval, enabled, and it's serialized. And we have this rule attached. And that rule is in the message label, if it contains demo test ID, it will trigger this and then pass in the message ID to our executable. So if you look at the journal label, it contains demo test, so it will initiate the trigger on this and then pass in this ID. So what we'll do, we'll debug this and we'll remove this trigger, this rule on this trigger. That way it will not run or trigger the executable. We'll detach it. Then it will send more messages. We should have here 10 new messages. It says new test all the way down to new test 9. So let's peek through this message ID and debug it in our trigger. This is my trigger here. I'll look at the properties and pass in a command line for the debug. We'll start the debugger. Okay, so if we look at the argument, that's the command line that we put in our startup. So if we step through this, this is just my debug text file that will write to, that's the ID, will write to the text file that's in here. Let's just clean this out and save it. Close it. Should be empty now. Okay. And this is our queue. That's in our app settings. It's the same up here. We'll check to see if that queue exists. If it does, then we'll peek at that ID that was passed in our startup. We have our message. We're going to read through that through our stream reader and append that text. This is the XML string that's in our message in the queue here. If you look at the queue, that's what it read in our string value. We're going to load that to an XML DOM, uh, read out the value, which was new test. This is the zero first, write it in our test file, and that's it. So if you open up our process, again, we should have our ID that was passed in, the XML, and the value in that XML string. So that's it. In reading our message and peeking through it and debugging through the message in MSMQ. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe and like.